This is Amateur Logic, episode 127 for February 15th, 2019. This episode of Amateur Logic is brought to you by MFJ, the world leaders in ham radio accessories at mfjenterprises.com. And by ICOM. Create your own band opening with ICOM's newest SDR transceiver, the IC9700. Coming soon. Good evening and welcome to another action-packed episode of Amateur Logic. I'm George.
I'm Tommy.
I'm Emil.
Can't wait to see what kind of action we're going to have tonight.
You just never know, man.
Never know.
Well, it is, it's February here.
It is. Day after Valentine's Day.
And it was almost 70 here.
Yeah, it's been really nice.
It has been nice. Emil, what's been going on down south there?
Well, down south, it's a new year, and the clubs are getting into swings, and meetings are going, and planning starting for the year, and all of that fun stuff. So,
cool.
We got a little preview of how we started that coming up.
And see, I didn't even know Emil was a member of a swinging club. You know? Okay. You know, it just presented itself there. You know, y'all would have thought less of me if I didn't take it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was kind of waiting for it.
Well, we've got some fun things lined up tonight. We'll find out what Emil's going to talk about in just a moment here, because I don't want to give it away too quickly. Tommy, what are you going to have tonight?
I've got a kind of a little bit of follow-up to my Pi-Star segment about the DV Mega. We're going to do a little firmware update tonight. So if yours is not current enough, I'm going to show you how to update it.
Okay. And I'm going to be, this will be part one of my new adventures with Echo Link on the Raspberry Pi.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I'm trying SVX Link this time. I'm not 100% there. Well, actually, I kind of have been, and then it crashed on me, so I'm in the process of rebuilding it. But there's so much information there that it's going to take a couple of episodes to get it all out, because I only do 10 minutes or so at a time.
Right.
But it's looking much more promising this time around, and I think you should be able to watch this and duplicate it. It should be all the steps you need. There's a few things left out, of what they've got on the website, and
right.
We filled in a few blanks here.
Cool.
We'll be looking at that. Anytime we're doing a show live, we've also got a chat room going on simultaneously, and that is where?
AmateurLogic.TV /chat.
And all our rowdy friends are in there tonight?
Yeah.
Well, half of them.
Yeah, half of them. It's usually about 50%.
We're not sure we could stand the whole load at once, but, they're having a good time over there.
Yep. So
yeah, they are.
If you're if you're watching the live stream, you're not over in the chat room, you're missing part of the fun. So come join us over there.
Yeah. And if you're watching the recorded version, well, of course, chat rooms are already, everybody packed up and went home after the show tonight.
Except there's a few that kind of hang out in there.
Oh, there is. But I don't know if they're saying anything. Maybe they are. Wait a minute. I saw a ghost. Well, enough on the chat there. Let's get into a few emails here.
Okay.
The first one tonight comes from Francis W1FXX. And he says, in episode 126, you made a brief mention of consoles. And I kind of remember doing that. Well, here's one for you. And he threw us in a picture of his console here. He says he bought the IC 9100 for satellite ops, not really realizing what a big brute it was. And that is a big radio, isn't it, Emil?
That is a big one. I like it.
He says, I wish I had known they were going to come out with the 9700 because it'd be a good companion to the 7300 he's got sitting up there on the shelf. Both he and his YL K3FXX really love the show. You guys have so much fun. Best regards, Francis. And thanks, Francis. Yeah, we try to have a good time here, and we usually do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a nice looking setup there.
Yeah, it was. That 9100 is pretty good size radio. But
You've got one, don't you, Emil?
Yeah, and I like how you had it set into the desk like that.
I kind of reclaim some desk space by doing it like that.
That thing's got sweet sounding audio.
Oh, really? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So Glenn, KG5CN, who is in the chat room, enlightened me a few days ago, and also the Facebook forum, that our radio club this year, the Ozone Amateur Radio Club, W5SLA, we're going to be doing our Ham Fest this year in July, but this time we're going to be doing it in conjunction with the W9DYV Amateur Radio Symposium. Now, apparently, what that is to me is an old radio, kind of like I guess they travel around and have shows that deal mainly with the old rigs and the. I hesitate to say boat anchors, but I'm sure there's some. But that's what this show is. I'm looking forward to it because from the pictures he's got on the Facebook forum, it's looking pretty decent. I'd like to see some of those rigs.
Yeah, I may have to come down for that.
I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to put it on my calendar and try.
I wrote it on my calendar. I don't always make it to everything I put on the calendar, but at least I know when it's coming up, and I can try to kind of plan around it.
Yeah, it should be a fun trip. I'm not going to be able to make it to the rain one this year because of work commitment. Scheduling's not going to work out, but I may try to make it down there to Slidell.
Yep. Email, I probably won't be there either, so you're going to have to pinch the tails and suck the heads for us.
Oh, I got it covered. Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping to come back, but just didn't work out this time, so I'm going to shoot for next year.
Roger that.
What's on your email stack over there, Tommy?
Well, I've got one that's a follow-up to my Blue DV segment. It's from Gary, VE6DZ. Says, sure would be nice if you could do a bigger segment on the Thumb DV for Windows and its ability to go mobile/portable on an Android phone with Blue DV Ambi from the Google Play Store. He did a bunch of research and he sent it to me on how to put it together. The picture you see came from Gary. It's the ultimate traveler's ham radio station that does not get the airport security the slight bit concerned. To transmit, tap the screen. To unkey, tap the screen again. It has great audio in both directions. Thanks, Gary. And anyway, he's right, and he also sent a little video. I probably should have covered more, but my segment took the whole 10 minutes, and anyway, it was aimed at keeping things kind of simple. That's it working. And you can see he's got a little pigtail and his Thumb DV plugged right into his phone. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I've got one of those adapters. I may need to start carrying that around on mine. I haven't used it like that.
We all practice emergency communications, and one of the focuses in most cases is doing that in adverse or differing conditions, and really see what it takes in different times of the year. And this was actually somewhat of a relief from the 100+ degree temperatures of the normal field day. So winter field day, Louisiana style. Hey, George and Tommy. cheap old man here, and this year for 2019 Winter Field Day, we decided to brave the mountainous region of Louisiana, north of our Lake Pontchartrain, about 30 miles north of New Orleans. And special thanks to WD5BJR for letting us get towards his place. We found a nice shady oak to sit under and set up, and had some good times with some of MSJ's antennas and some of our mobile setups, field day setups, equipment, what have you. And it was an awesome day, 60 degrees. I don't know that we would qualify with winter conditions from what we had, but it was awesome, gorgeous day to be outside. And what a performer that antenna is right there. Gotta hand it to MFJ on that one. Occasionally, of course, we checked out the voltages to make sure our batteries were working, and the radios never did give us any problems. We were also accompanied by another ham from our club, and they were operating right down the field from us, and we had a great time. And it was good stuff with the contacts we made. And there's Glenn, KG5CN, and we even had some equestrian type operators with us as well.
Looks like Germany, Denmark, America. I believe you said. Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir. You're just 5 by 8, Maryland. And you want to the patch and okay, I caught Maryland, which I believe would be A. What's your class, please?
Let's try to get them.
Coming into Evansville, Indiana. This is Kilo Charlie 9 Sierra Foxtrot Lima, calling CQ Winterfield Day.
Kilo Golf 5 Charlie Echo November.
I had a Kilo Golf 5 station.
Kilo Golf 5 Charlie Echo November. Our exchange is 1 Oscar Lima Alpha, over.
All right, very good. Please copy 1 Oscar India November. Okay, thanks for the 1 India in Western Washington. 7-3, thank you very much. QRZ from Whiskey 2, Papa Echo. Whiskey 1 Alpha, Whiskey 2 are set.
Well, it looks like a fun time was had by all there, Emil, and with that epic music. Boy,
Yeah, it looked like you guys had great weather too, man. That's perfect.
It was perfect weather. I'd have to say we were probably cheating compared to most of the other people we were talking to in the Northeast and north of us.
Yeah, I see Chip in the chat room said it seems strange seeing people sitting outside in February, but I've been running the air conditioner.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are asking about what the green stuff was on the ground. It's some kind of strange thing going on.
Yeah,
AstroTurf.
It must have been.
yeah. I walked out in the backyard today. I noticed I'm probably going to have to cut my grass in a few more weeks.
Yeah,
It's getting some.
oh, mine too.
Yeah.
I mentioned to Tommy I like the shipping or packing blanket there on the table. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, it helped. In fact, the host who let us come to his property up there provided that big table with that cover, and it worked really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a versatile piece of equipment.
yeah.
Packing blanket.
They make great sound insulation too. We've
Yeah.
got 'em
Oh yeah.
on the walls in here to kind of deaden things down a little bit. It still gets pretty lively at times though. Well, let's get on back into the emails. And by the way, let me just say before we move on that one of these years we're going to do Winter Field Day. It just falls on the same weekend as our Hamfest here usually.
Yeah. And actually this year I had to work over the Hamfest weekend too. So
Yeah.
matter of fact, we should have had Hamfest footage from this show.
Yeah, we did.
Didn't
I didn't
pan
shoot
out.
any this year.
Yeah.
You weren't really there much.
Yeah, I was only there for about an hour and a half.
Yeah. And
I'm looking at something Glenn's putting in the chat room right now that's relevant. He's mentioning that once the wind started blowing a little bit and it got around 40s and the sun went down, we just ran for the hills. Not that there's any hills, but we ran for it because 40. That's intolerable.
That's pretty bad.
oh yeah,
I'm gonna see how people live in that kind of weather.
Yeah, I don't understand.
yeah, I don't either. 40s is cold around here.
It is.
Well, tell me, what have you got for your next email over there?
Well, I've got this one actually kind of is related to your segment from last month. So,
Our segment, we all did that.
well, it's the community segment.
Don't blame it all on me.
Okay, anyway, this is from Rude, PA3RW.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's written in several times.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been watching the show for a long time. I did see your last YouTube broadcast video about the stub filter. I've used these filters for a long time now. I've made them for different frequencies and they worked well. I make them a little bit different and I'll tell you why. I use 2 stubs. The line is as follows. From the transmitter, a T piece with a stub of quarter wavelength. At the other end of the T piece, another quarter wavelength for the second stub. Then it goes to my antenna. If both stubs are shorted, then it's a bandpass filter. If both stubs are open, then it's a band stop filter. If one of the stubs is open and the other is shorted, it's a low pass filter, and when you swap it, which one's shorted out, it's a high pass filter. I use this filter for a lot of frequencies. Now, if the frequency's in the HF band, I use an empty tin. So you can buy the empty ones at a hardware store. He rolls the coax up in the tin, and both of the T pieces come out of the 2 holes I made in the tin. Of course, the lower frequencies, the bigger the tin. Rude, PA3RW. Anyway, that's kind of interesting. And I could see that. I'd actually like to test that out, the high pass and low pass filter part of it, because I could see instead of just doing the notch,
Oh yeah.
kind of like what we showed here, how that would be useful in some circumstances. Very useful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So thanks for sharing that with us, Rude. That's pretty cool.
Well, I've got an email here from Garland KB4RTM, and this is concerning a previous episode as well. He said some time ago on either AmateurLogic or Ham Nation, you used an Arduino kit to display the HF frequency because yours had gone bad. And I guess he means the display on the radio had gone bad. And yeah, I did.
That was on AmateurLogic.
That's, that was the 857D that's got the common problem of the streaks in the display. He says he has a TS820 and the display doesn't show all the numbers. Can you recommend one of the Arduino mini kits? I enjoy both shows. Happy Thanksgiving. So you can tell he wrote this a while back.
Oh, yeah.
And what he was referring to there.
Either that or he's early for next Thanksgiving.
Yep. Is my color heads-up display. I had streaks in the display on my FT857, and you know, I don't really use that radio that much, and I had this display here, and I said, well, that sounds like a good project for the display, so that's it. And unfortunately, it's not a kit. That's something that I put together, and all the software and everything's available for download. If you go back, look at episode 112 from December of 2017. You'll get all the details there and a link to where you can download that source code. But mine was written to work exclusively with the FT857D. Now, you could modify it and use it with any rig that supports CAT commands, but you'd have to do a little modifying.
I can't believe it's been that long, 2017.
Yeah.
It seems like it was no time ago when you did that.
It does. As a matter of fact, it's still sitting over there on the bench like it was no time ago that I did it, because
you wait for your 2-year
I guess,
thing to come up like I do?
Yeah. I need to finish the cabinet on the thing and just call it done, because it's got my workbench claimed
usually
for 2 years now.
I usually buy parts for projects or whatever, and then it usually sits there for 2 years before I actually get around to actually implementing whatever it was.
Yeah,
So I guess he's trying to follow my lead on that one.
yeah.
What was Mike's box of unfinished dreams or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Speaking of projects and things that might be on your workbench and things that maybe needed a little changing here and there and tweaked on to keep going, Emil, you've got, I think this is a familiar subject that you were going to tell us about here.
So once again, there's another post in the Facebook forum in reference to the Pi clock. You guys might remember, and I think it was episode 120. I built the Pi clock little display for my Pi and 7-inch display, and then we had some troubles where the weather and the map providers basically started charging for the use of their APIs to pull data and weather.
And
so
that's just not cheap old man compliant at all, is it?
It's just not. It was just wrong. So since then, the creator of this project, which is on GitHub, by the way, if you search for Pi clock, you're going to find the GitHub link of the repository that you can easily clone to any Pi. He updated it. The call is N0BEL. And he updated that project now to use cheap, compliant. I don't think he calls it that, but it's free APIs basically, and really easy to register. It's back in business, as you see there in the bottom left of that screen you're showing. The maps and the weather data is back and works like a charm. So renewed hope for the cheapness of the Pi clock project.
Well, that's great, because I was thinking about building one right after I saw yours. It looked so cool, and then they did that.
Yeah. Side note, somebody sent me some plans and some code and stuff about kind of a different version of a similar thing. So I need to build it. I actually have plans to try it out sometime, and maybe we need to have a Pi clock shootout type thing and compare.
Oh,
I like
the
it.
Smackdown.
A Pi clock Smackdown. All right.
We could get some whipped cream and pie crust and just have a big old time in here.
Yeah, I thought it might be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Ameritron's new ALS 1306 is a 1.5 to 54 megahertz solid-state near-legal limit FET no-tune amplifier. It's got 1200 watts PEP output on all bands, including 10 and 6 meters, instant automatic band switching, no tuning, no warm-up, and no tubes to pamper. ALS 1306's reliability is ensured by using 8 rugged MRF 150 power FETs mounted on a dual heavy-duty heatsink properly arranged to distribute heat over a large surface. Single power device amplifiers can't do that. ALS 1306 outputs up to 1200 watts of clean SSB power with just 100 watts of drive. Add an optional interface cable for your radio, and automatic band switching lets you put your amplifier and power supply out of the way. The ALS 1306 automatic band switching reads band data from your transceiver and automatically changes bands as you make adjustments on your radio. Built-in SWR protection prevents amplifier damage if you accidentally switch to a wrong band, use the wrong antenna, or have high VSWR. Overpower protection prevents forward and reflected power from exceeding safe levels. Output power is automatically reduced to prevent amplifier damage by controlling ALC to the exciter. The ALS 1306 is powered by a 50-volt DC 50-amp switching power supply, which comes with a pre-wired cable. This hash-free, fully regulated switching power supply is only 12 pounds and can be placed conveniently out of the way. The power supply comes wired for 220 volts AC, but can be changed to 110 volts. It draws less than 25 amps at 110 volts, or 12 amps at 220 volts. If you're looking for a modern amplifier for your ham shack, then you owe it to yourself to look at the Ameritron ALS 1306. Visit AmateurLogic.TV today and check out the full line of the world's most popular HF linear amplifiers.
That's what you've got, isn't it?
That is what I've got. You know, when that commercial was originally shot, they were just releasing that amplifier, and I don't remember what the date was. And I said, you know, I like the way this thing looks, and I like the fact that, you know, it's 1,300 watts. It's almost legal limit, and it's solid state, and it's auto band switching, so it just follows your rig around.
Yeah, that's a nice feature.
I bought one here. It's been over a year now. I like the amplifier.
Yeah.
I'm really well pleased with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having one of those myself. Better get to turn my radio back on. My HF radio. I haven't just had any time to get on there much lately.
Yeah. You're going to have to do something about that.
Yep.
You mentioned a little earlier what you were working on this month. Why would you even want to do this?
Well, because some of the newer software now requires a certain level of firmware on your DV Mega for it to work. There's some things that were added to there, some bugs fixed, and some different code added to it. So if your version of firmware on your DV Mega is too old, it's not going to work with like Pi-Star, some of the other things, Blue DV. So there's a certain level. So it's pretty easy to update it. Let's take a look. A couple months ago, we went through setting up the Pi-Star image, and when we were going through it, you remember on the screen it showed that the Pi-Star image requires a certain level of the DV Mega firmware. And so today we're going to go through updating your firmware. If your DV Mega is older and hasn't been updated, it's a pretty easy task. So let's go ahead and cover that real quick. I've got mine in my DHAP Mini Mega still, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. We're going to need a couple tools for the update. You can use an Arduino Uno like I've got here, or alternatively, if you've got the little BlueStack micro board, which is an awesome board. If you don't have one, you should. It's a great little board for getting on the digital modes. But I understand these are a little bit more readily available. You can get an Arduino Uno off of Amazon pretty cheap, or a lot of different outlets actually. Just make sure you get one that the chip's removable and not soldered on. Okay, so this one I've actually blew the chip a long time ago. Let's go ahead and take this off and get started. My DV Mega may look a little bit different than some of yours. Mine's one of the original ones, one of the older ones, and the newer ones, the antenna comes up straight on the top. Mine's at an angle. I did buy a vertical one of these to put on, or a straight one. I just haven't bothered yet. It's been fine. We're going to need to take the chip off. If you've got a chip puller, you can use that. I don't have one, so I'm going to use my trusty K0NEB Joe Eisenberg screwdriver that I got from one of the Hamfests and use it. That's my standard chip puller. One disclaimer: if you live in a static environment, even if you don't, always touch some metal, ground yourself, or use a wrist strap. Take precautions not to put static discharge into your electronics. I live in the South. It's rainy today, which it's either rainy or humid, and so we don't usually have a static problem here. The easiest way for me to do it is to take this little flat screwdriver and ease it into a little space below the chip, between the chip and the socket, and slowly, gently pry it back and forth until it comes off. Just be careful not to bend your prongs. If you can get it under both sides, that's better. Sometimes you can't, sometimes you can. There, I got it under both of mine, and it came off without damaging anything. So check your prongs and make sure that they're all good. So what we need to install it into the Arduino Uno. On the socket, there's a small little notch, and it's probably going to be kind of difficult to see, but it's right there. And on the chip, you've got the same notch. And on mine, it's right here. So make sure you line those up when you install it. I'm just going to push it on easy. There's no sense in jamming it way down because I'm going to have to pull it back off. As long as we've got a good solid connection, we're good. We're going to need a USB cable. One of the old school ones like you use on a printer is what you need for your Arduino Uno. And I'll go ahead and hook it up. You'll see the lights come on. Now we need to download the firmware. So let's go get it. And if we go to dvmega.aria.nl/downloads.html, you'll find the downloads section. Scroll through here and find your radio that you've got. Mine is a Raspberry Pi based for D-Star single band radio. They've got some for dual band, and I want it for MMDVM host. So looking at this, 3.26 looks like the latest version. So I'll grab that. And we're also going to need the Xloader program that right next to it to actually burn it to the chip there. So I'll go ahead and I'll unzip the Xloader. And for simplicity, I'll just drag it to my desktop right here. And I'll unzip the firmware. Okay, so now we're going to need to run it. So when I plugged my Arduino up, the first time you'll probably see it go through and install some drivers, and you'll hear some beeping going on. We're going to need to know the COM port that it's set up. Let's go into the device manager and find the COM port. Device manager, ports, Arduino Uno COM3. So that's the port we're going to need to use. Let's run our Xloader program, and we'll pick the right Arduino. Ours is an Uno. It's going to set up the COM port speed for you, and it thinks it's on COM3, which is correct because we just confirmed that. Well, let's go browse and find our firmware right there, 326, and click upload. If you look at the Arduino, you can see the communication lights are on here. The receive and transmit lights are lit. Once they go off, check your screen and you'll see X number of bytes were uploaded, 29,546. So that tells me that it was successful. So we can close this. Let's kill the power from our Arduino. And let's remove the chip and put it back. Again, be very careful. Always ground yourself if you have a static problem, and take the proper precautions. If you fry your electronics, we're not responsible for that. So I've got the chip back off. That was easy enough. Now I'll install it back into my DHAP in just a moment, and we will test it out. Always, again, make sure you watch that notch and line them up together when you install your chip. Okay, let's go boot it up. We got it booted back up. I'm logged into the Pi-Star dashboard, and we can see right here that our firmware has been upgraded to 3.26. I did have some requests for this, so hopefully you guys that asked for it will be able to get your Pi-Star image up and going with this now. 73.
I have my screwdriver chip puller too.
Your K0NEB screwdriver?
Not that exact one, but something similar.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you were in here when that. I used Joe Eisenberg K0NEB chip puller.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually have an official Radio Shack chip puller.
Yeah, they're not making those anymore.
No, they're not.
Better hang on to
It's
it.
like a collector's item these days. Just like this dollar T-shirt that I've got.
You know, I used to have one, but I actually had better luck using the screwdriver.
Yeah. Yeah. You can control it a little better. The other thing you yank out with it, man, your pin's liable to be going every which direction when you finally get it
Or you
out
might
of the
wind up
socket.
with a chip stuck in your forehead.
That could happen. Yeah. That would be one way to reprogram it, I guess. Okay, email. You actually, no, this is not a email. This is a snail mail you've got here.
This is an actual package I received from the Down Under. You see that there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute.
And wait.
Yeah.
It came from Australia. Hold on, let me turn it around.
It came in that way.
Yeah. It came in this way, and I figured, oh, wait a minute. In order to read this one, I got to kind of turn it upside down.
Yeah.
Our buddy VK2TEQ, Greg McCulkin, sent me a really nifty book here, which is the Wireless Institute of Australia's call book. And I got to tell you, just browsing through it, it is very well organized and has a lot of useful information in it.
Yeah, I
And look
think
at that.
I should have brought mine. I feel left out. Mine's at home now.
I think there's more in this call book than we have in ours here.
Yeah, it's a nice book. It's really well put together.
Yeah, it's not just call signs. There's a lot of extra information in here as well.
Yeah, there's a page. There's a page in there that has every the letter prefixes and what countries they belong to. I mean, the resistor codes, some electronics information, you name it. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, so in the note Greg put in mine, it says between that and the other books that he sent, he sent his handbook.
Yeah.
And one other book, between those three, there's a pretty good picture of how the Australian amateur radio system is.
This note?
And speaking of notes, why don't I go ahead and read that while y'all passing it around there?
Okay.
Greetings. Enclosed is the Wireless Institute of Australia's 2019 call book. It will give you a pretty good overall of the Australian ham radio. I really appreciate AmateurLogic.TV and Ham College, and I hope I'm getting this right. But he said fair de dinkum, which I think means genuine and true. So compliment it. I mean, everything is upside down, so I don't know. Well, we'll find out from him. Long live the podcast. Just in case, if some don't know where Australia is, get a world map, turn it upside down. We're there somewhere. Greg McCall, VK2TEQ. So, and there you can see I went ahead and looked in the call book and found Greg and somebody else we might recognize too. Look at that.
PW.
VK3PB, Peter.
I know PW.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Thanks for sending those, Greg. We all three got the same book.
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg. And we've got a fair collection of Australian amateur radio books.
There's some great
now.
info in all those books. So anyway, I appreciate you doing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Greg.
And let's see. Well, I think it's your turn.
My turn for an email?
Yeah.
An email? Or is it an email?
Whatever you got.
Okay. Well, I do have one. This one is from, you know what? I don't think I put his call sign down here.
Yeah, you did.
G3ZHI.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was Ian. We got pretty.
Must be Australian.
Anyway, Ian sent an email. Have you had an item on the new Peanut VoIP app for Android, meaning the segment? It also works on Windows. The audio is very good. It also connects to D-Star, DMR, and Fusion gateways. And he put the link down to it, pa7lim.nl/peanut. I haven't done that yet, but I plan on doing it. It is, again, it's not only for Android, it's also, there's Windows app. So I plan on doing that soon. He temporarily shut it down and started it back up. So I was going to do it a month or so back, and then that kind of came up. So anyway, I should do something fairly soon on it.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about it. It does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
Well, I've got one here. This is an actual email from a viewer.
Okay.
And it's from John Herman, KC3JYK. And he said, "Hi, George. I'm trying to find a good way to learn my way around test equipment and repairing radios. I'm mostly interested in fixing amateur radios, not sure I trust myself around 50,000 watt transmitters yet. What's a good way to do this? Thanks in advance, John." Well, yeah, where do you start? If you want to learn how to work on radios and how to use test equipment, I just go back to my college education and knowing where we started there in electronics. I feel like you're better off if you can learn some theory and some background, then you'll know a little more of how to go about fixing rather than just check this first, check that next. Although that's certainly a way you can do it. So I went looking on the internet to try to find some good websites where you could, kind of get a course outline and do some study and learn a little bit about electronics. The first one I came up with is electronics-tutorials.ws. It had really good tutorials in it, but I think they could be arranged better. You notice they've got all the topics there kind of laid out in alphabetical order. That's not the way to learn electronics. It's electronics is not in alphabetical order.
That fall like the dictionary.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to start out with AC circuits. So I did a little more, and I did find another one that looked, I certainly liked the order they were doing things in better. 101.science.com/basicelectronics.htm. This one, you probably can't see it, but it actually starts in a logical order of the order that you'd want to learn electronics, different topics in. This is the way we did it when I went to school. The order makes sense. You start out very simple with DC circuits, and you work your way on through to more complex subjects. I think that one's worth having a look at there. A good way to kind of learn something about electronics. Now, you can go around watching videos on the internet and one thing or another, and you'll learn some stuff that way. But if you really want to, learn it, then taking the long way and just, learn electronics is probably...
Yeah. I would think doing some projects where you actually put your hands on it, see things work.
That helps. But...
Because I know I've tried to learn some, here recently. I've had a little bit, sparked my interest a little bit more. And I've read some things and asked you some questions about it. But some of the stuff, while you understand the theory, it really doesn't go home until you actually put the stuff down and run some current through it, measure what happens, at the different points and stuff like that. So it's going to be a combination of both of them, I think.
Well, and that's kind of the way I learned it. We had our textbooks, and we started out in DC and real basic stuff, just resistors and a battery, and we had lessons that went along with it, to where we actually took components and assembled the things that we were studying on, and kind of helped cement it and learn what the heck we were doing. Didn't you take electronics?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I started in, speaking of college, it was a trade school at the time, before it was an accredited college, and I took the CET, the Consumer Electronics Tech course, and they had these whole benches with variable power supplies and certain stations. It was called Lab Volt, if I remember right. And that Lab Volt had these drawers full of circuits that you would pull out, put the components on, and measure each of the test points and trace signals through the... So anyway, that's where I learned it and got the CET before I went into computer sciences. But I want to say something. You guys ever heard of SparkFun?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So SparkFun has those easy kits geared for beginners as well as kids as well, like younger age. Not just adult people want to learn, but kids as well. So that's a good place to start. So I'm right there with Tommy. You put your hands on it, you start building it. It's going to keep your interest.
We didn't have the CET when I went to school. Is that cheap electronics technician? What is that?
It turned into being cheap electronics. Now I have boxes of parts and I'm kind of like Jimmy used to be, removing parts from stuff just to have it around.
Yep.
Wife kind of looks at me funny when it comes to that, but oh well.
Yeah. Yeah, we had this huge board. Well, we had some of the smaller things, sort of like what you're talking about, but we also had this huge board that he could change it to have different schematics on it, and the components would plug in on top of where the different schematic symbols were. And he had one like of a radio, an AM radio, and different circuits. And he actually had some components that were bad that he would plug in on the circuit board there, and you would have to troubleshoot it and find where the bad part was.
Oh.
And the part looked good. It didn't look like there was anything wrong with it. So,
Yeah, we one of our teacher had a trainer. One of the trainers was for television. I think it was old Zenith, and he would flip switches and break the break the circuits in it, and you had to go trace and see where it was being lost.
fun times.
Yeah.
Nobody.
You guys remember Sam's Fax?
Oh, PhotoFax, yeah.
The Sam's Fax. We had an entire library full of service manuals.
Oh, we
at
did
that place.
too.
It was quite a good resource. That college had a pretty good electronics class.
It sounds very similar to the one I took. It was a junior college. 2 years, all we did was study electronics, and they were, back then there was a lot of TV service work going on. That's not really what I specialized in, but you still had to learn how to fix televisions.
Yeah.
And today I guess that's a skill that wouldn't be too useful because nobody fixes televisions anymore.
No, everything's disposable now.
I've still got my textbooks up there on I think it's called Television Symptoms Diagnosis.
If the picture tube ever goes on in mine, I'll give you a call.
There you go. We'll rejuvenate it.
I see a couple people, not to keep dragging out, but a couple people in here mentioned those Forrest Mims books were good references also.
Oh, yeah.
I've got the stack like this of those little Forrest Mims little notebooks that you used to get from Radio Shack. They're about that big.
Yeah.
So I think I bought the whole set of them.
I've got a few of those, and I've got some of the thicker, bigger ones that they published before they came out with the thin ones. It's got basically the same circuits, except it was one bigger book. And I built a lot of stuff where I would take a piece of this circuit and a piece of that one and put them all together and build what it was I wanted.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Those are cool books. I need to go dig those out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll be back in just a moment because we've still got more left to go. But first, let's get a message from our friends at ICOM. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. ICOM's newest SDR transceiver, the IC9700, is coming soon. This new radio is bringing direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. The IC9700 all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features, such as dedicated amateur satellite operation, color touchscreen, built-in D-Star capability, RF direct sampling on 2 meters and 70 centimeter bands, dual independent receivers capable of full duplex operation as well as dual watch, 100 watts maximum output power on 2 meters, 75 watts max on 70 centimeters, and 10 watts max on 1.2 gigahertz. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios. Attention all hams. ICOM knows that ham clubs play a big role in bringing ham communities together to learn from their peers and industry leaders. As a way to give back and help you on your mission, ICOM has launched a promotion exclusively for U.S. ham clubs and the ham fest they're involved with. By registering your club, you could win ICOM swag, a Skype presentation for your club, or your ham fest, an ICOM booth setup. Register today for your chance to win at ICOMAmerica.com/hams. I mentioned earlier we were going to revisit Echolink on the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Here, the video just tells it all.
The video says it all. Huh?
Well, it says as much as we're allowed to legally say.
50% of it.
There you go, at least 50%. Back in episode 61 and 62 of Amateur Logic, this was Well, December 2013, January 2014. The Raspberry Pis were still kind of new. I got my hands on one, and the first real project that I tried to make happen on it that I thought would be cool was to run Echolink on the Raspberry Pi. Well, I got it going. I tried a couple of different packages there. I used one called the Link Box. I also used SVX Link. I believe I had problems with it, but finally got the Link Box to kind of work, but neither one of them were that reliable, and the audio was kind of jerky on it as well. Well, we're on the third generation of the Raspberry Pi now, and there's been enough time that I feel like things are going a little better now. You know, the audio systems are supported better, which was part of the problem at that time. And, the software is probably a little bit better, and definitely the Pis are a lot faster. So I thought it was about time to revisit that. And I'm going to try building another Echolink Pi. This time I'm going to begin again as I did last time with SVX Link. It's a good looking package. There's a couple of different versions of it. There's one that uses the Qtel GUI, or you can run it from the command line and run SVX server. Now, this is actually an advanced repeater controller, and it's got Echolink built in it as well. It's available for Linux, and there's also distributions for the Raspberry Pi. That's what we're going to try. svxlink.org is where you can learn more about it. Right here on github.com/smzero-svx/svxlink/wiki/install-bind-raspbian. That's a mouthful. Well, the link's right there on the bottom of the screen. This is where I found some information on downloading it and actually installing it on the Raspberry Pi. The first thing they put on here is instructions on how to install the Raspbian operating system on your Raspberry Pi and some steps for setting it up. We're going to bypass all of that. I've already got my Raspberry Pi set up with a fresh install on it, and I've installed Midnight Commander and configured VNC on it because those are tools I normally like to use with it. So we're just going to start out with the actual SVX Link installation. I've got my Pi set up here. Well, I'm using a wired Ethernet on it. You could actually use Wi-Fi because that's built into these. I've also got the little dongle for a Logitech mouse and keyboard that I'll be using with it while I'm doing the setup here. Once I've got it up and running, I won't need that. I can log into this thing with SSH, or I could use VNC. I've also got HDMI cable here so that we can capture the video and you can follow along and see as this progresses. And I'm going to put the power connector in right now. We'll watch it boot up and then go through the steps and see if we can't get this working. First thing we'll want to do is go download the package that we need. If we go to that GitHub link I mentioned just a moment ago and scroll down past the instructions for installing Raspbian, down to the section on Install SVX Link, there's a few commands here that we need to do. This is a testing package. It's not a regular Raspbian package that's compiled and sitting waiting out there. So we have to get this from the Buster software repository. We copy this first line right here. We bring up a command prompt and paste it right here. And there we go. That has added that repository. The next thing we need to do is to run a quick update. The next thing we need to do is run the sudo apt-get-t buster install svxlink-server. Do we want to continue? It's going to use a little disk space, not much though. The next thing we see is a warning message here that shouldn't apply to us since this is the most current release of the Raspbian operating system. So we'll do Q to quit. The next message that pops up here is warning us that the system needs to be restarted. And if we'd like to do the restarts without automatically being prompted each time, we can just choose yes here and it will leave us alone. At last, we're back at a command prompt. Now we're finished with the Buster repository, so we should remove it using this command right here. If you're wondering how I'm doing this cutting and pasting back and forth, well, I've got a VNC window opened up to the Raspberry Pi, And I'm cutting and pasting from my Windows version of Chrome here on the desktop, pasting that over into the Raspberry Pi. Now we're down to the next step, which is to install the SVX Link sounds. We're going to use the English sounds, of course. Since there is no redneck version, we'll just copy them one at a time and execute them. And the sound should be installed now. So we're at the basic test for the SVX Link installation. We're going to test out our sounds here and make sure those work. And this is the USB sound dongle that I'm going to use. These are available all over the internet for just a few bucks. I bought this one for that last Echo Link project back in 2013, but virtually the same dongle is available everywhere today for not much money. We're not going to plug it in yet, though. Our instructions say that at this point, we just want to plug a speaker into the regular sound system on the Raspberry Pi here and do our test that way. Since there's no microphone input on the default Raspberry Pi sound system, we're going to need to disable that. The instructions say to use the nano editor to edit the svxlink.conf file. I don't really like editing with the nano editor, and I've got a favorite utility here that I use for most of my command line stuff. We type sudo, so we can set our super user permissions here, space MC for Midnight Commander. Now I've got a nice little graphic interface here that I can go and hunt down to the ETC folder and then the SVX link folder, find our file right there, and I will edit it. We need to find the Simplex Logic section, change RX to equal none, and change my call to your actual call sign. Save that. And now we're ready to type some commands to do some testing. There will probably be errors generated, it says, but that's okay. We can work those out later. So let's start up SVX Link here. Typically, this is going to be done with a script, but yeah, we're just going to do it here manually. And it says we've successfully loaded. But we've got some errors, and that was to be expected. So now we enter *#, and it should identify itself.
Six Link Online, Whiskey 5, Juliet, Delta, X-Ray. The time is 11:34 p.m. PL is 136.5 Hertz. Press 0, number sign for help.
Okay, so far so good. And the voice was clear. It was not stuttering like it did back 6 years ago. So far so good. And the next thing we need to get going here is our external USB sound device. There are no instructions for doing this in the document we've been following. This is the USB sound dongle I'm going to use. It's the same one I bought 6 years ago for Echo Link. It's available from a variety of sources for less than $5. Not a bad deal if it works. I'm going to take it and plug a little extender on it here so that it doesn't take up extra USB ports on my Pi. Found a website here that might be able to help us get this going. This is on stackexchange.com, the link at the bottom of your screen there. I'm going to follow the steps there and make sure that my sound device is working as it should be before we go any further. That was a fairly painless process. I just followed the steps there listed on the web page and made a few edits and some files. Everything's good to go now on playback and record using our USB sound dongle as the default and only device for playing or recording audio on the Raspberry Pi. Next time we'll pick back up and get the GPIO working and test out the SVX link on the air. Actually, I got a little further than this. I've got the GPIO going and everything. I was basically to the point of where I was ready to hook it to a radio and test it out.
Well, cool.
But anyway, we'll look more at it next time, and I got a feeling this is going to be the one. This
Think so?
Yeah, I think so.
If it works, you're going to swap out that little terminal thing you got
I
running?
am. Cool. I am. I'm using a Wise Dumb terminal up there now. Well, it's not really
Wise
a
dumb terminal. That's like an oxymoron.
Yeah. It's actually a Wise Thin client, but and it works great for Echolink. But
Military intelligence.
and Mike is asking about the PTT. Yeah, well, I just mentioned it. Yeah, I'm using the GPIO ports on the Raspberry Pi for that. It all works out, and we'll look at that next time out, and we'll finish that project off. You know, last time I tried this, which was however many years ago it was, 6 years maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, the SVX link, I just never could really get it to work at all. It was just really bad. It would kind of stutter.
Sort of worked-ish.
Yeah, well, it stuttered real bad, but I used the link box. I think that's the one I ended up using.
Oh, okay.
And it worked for about a month and then didn't anymore. So somebody offered me that Wise Thin client machine. I mean, it's got embedded Windows XP on it, so I jumped right on it.
Yeah. Hey, it was awful nice of it. It's been running
It's been
the
working
Echolink
great.
for a long time.
Yep, 6 years.
Yeah.
When you're making a jump to Pi, so we know it's cheap compliant.
There you go.
And you saw the $4 sound device he's got hooked up to it.
I saw wires, bare wires, and connectors. I'm proud.
Yeah, and you know that sound device I actually bought 6 years ago, and I've used it in 2 or 3 other projects, so that should count for something in there.
Yeah. I've still got mine. I got one. I think when you bought them, you got 2. Gave me one of them. I still got mine in the drawer there.
Yeah.
Haven't used it yet.
Well,
Been over 2 years too.
it has.
Past due.
They work. I mean, I'm not going to, throw out my $1,500 Audio Science sound card for the $4 off-brand.
But you could if you wanted
But,
to.
I don't know if I could.
If you don't care how it sounds.
If you don't care. If you can stand a little noise. Speaking of school, we'll be right back. At the end of each month, it's AmateurLogic's Ham College, the new show for those new to the hobby and those wanting to get into amateur radio.
Which of the following is a purpose of the amateur radio service as stated in the FCC rules and regulations?
That inductor and capacitor form a tuned circuit. That's how you tune the radio to the frequency that you want. The English language.
We lived in town. I liked it. I listened to mine a lot. It was really cool because you didn't have to have a battery to power it.
There's our homemade telegraph station. We can use it for long distance communications. 3 feet here?
Across the table. The answer is B. Voltage was named after Italian physicist Alessandro Volta.
We can see we're generating a little bit of electricity there. It's DC.
It's always great to go back and get a refresher.
It sure is.
A lot of that stuff, if you've been a ham for a while like we have, you don't really think about a lot of that stuff that often.
They didn't have electric screwdrivers in those days, so that's why we're not using ones.
That's why we went primitive with it.
Yeah. So let's see if we can hear anything when we fire off our spark gap transmitter.
Oh yeah.
Well, we didn't build anything or blow up anything today, but
The night's still young. We hadn't blew up anything today either. We're our quota. We're short on the quota.
well, you know what they say.
The night's still young.
Yeah. We have viewers on this show.
We have a few.
Yes, some of the best dressed viewers around.
There's no doubt about that.
I'm about to have stage fright.
Okay. Anyway, they send us pictures from time to time, actually showing us what they've been wearing. And we're going to look at that in just a moment here, but you can kind of tell I got out of sequence here.
Wait, just to make sure they were wearing something, right?
They were.
Okay, good.
Something. Yeah. I had an email I wanted to read here. This came from John Sullivan. And it's because of, an Amateur Logic segment that we played on Ham Nation this week. You know, occasionally I'll pull back some of the old Amateur Logic segments and run them over there. The classics and Smoke and Solder. And I'm trying to think, I told you earlier, I can't even remember what it was.
PC
now.
boards.
Yeah, I was talking about point-to-point wiring and the different kind of experimenter boards, PC boards, perf boards, Manhattan style, all the different types of project building you can do, and how you connect things together. And John just happened to be watching. And I usually tag these at, this previously ran Amateur Logic. And he said, "Hello, George, just finished watching the latest Ham Nation podcast for February 13th, where you showed us your smoke and solder demo from Amateur Logic number 88. So that's been a while.
Yeah.
Said you prefaced it by saying that you didn't remember how long ago you recorded it, but that it should show us the date in the video, in which it did. It was March of 2106.
Wow.
He says, as this is only 2019, the year 2106 is still 87 years in the future, so we really appreciate you coming back.
We
share
always
this
said
demo.
we were ahead of our time.
Yeah. Good to know that amateurs are still making homebrew circuit boards for many years to come. Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but it's just a little typo there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's a good catch.
That was a good catch. Yeah, so I just thought I would mention it here. Email has accused us of time travel before. And
I was going to say, this is just more evidence for the conspiracy. Y'all not fooling nobody.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably still be sitting here at this table making these in 2106. So.
Yep. Well, back to our wardrobe department here. And as we mentioned, people from all over the world send us photos of them, wearing their best.
Yeah.
And we've got one right here that came from Greg. Well, the same guy who sent us the Australian call book here, VK2TEQ. And I don't know if this was a ham fest there or exactly what was going on.
It's The Walking Dead.
So, okay.
I'd hate to. That gives new meaning to rag chew.
Boy, it does, doesn't it? They may not be very well matched on the clothing there, and it might be a little worn and tattered. Not unlike what you might see at a ham fest anyway.
But overall, they look pretty sharp.
Yep. At least they've all got the headgear on.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. These are pretty cool. These are part of my favorite parts of doing the show. Seeing the pictures that the people send in.
And here's one from John Baggett, K2BAG, and he's actually from England. But he sent us a photo here. He was traveling out. I guess it was out west. And did you know that we had our Grammy email?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Well, there you go, right there.
There you go. There's the proof.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man, that thing is shiny.
That is mighty shiny, isn't it? I don't have all the captions and all that went with this, but this is.
It looks pretty good with the hat on it, though.
Yeah.
The hat really makes it.
He posted that on the Google Plus community, which unfortunately will be going away in the near future here.
April the 2nd?
I think.
It said, when I logged on a few minutes ago, it said my account's going to go away April the 2nd.
But it could be April 1st and they're just fooling.
Oh, no.
Could be.
It just occurred to me.
I never thought about that.
So anyway, Tommy, if you wanted to win a Grammy, or if you wanted to sport the latest wear at the next Hamfest, where could you get said wear?
If you want to look like these fine people here,
These people,
yeah,
maybe a little better than that.
you can get yours at AmateurLogic.Spreadshirt.com. We've got Amateur Logic hats, shirts, jackets. There's quite a few different things in there, as well as some Ham College gear too. If you happen to be a Ham College viewer as well.
That's where you can find it all right there, and we don't really make anything off these. We're just doing it to.
Yeah, there was a lot of requests for it, so there they are. So Anyway, but I will say they are that when you send the pictures of wearing the shirts or the hats in, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that. So you guys keep doing that.
By popular demand. I think it's time we pull the plug and get on out of here while we still have some innocence left.
Yeah, it's supper time.
Not much.
Yep.
Yep.
Too dirty.
All right. Join us here again next month around the 15th. That'll be what? That'll be around March the 15th.
Yep. Yeah, right around there.
And join our two favorite scholars, Professor Thomas and Dean Martin, at the end of the month for the Next Time College. We got some learning to do you.
We're going to learn you something.
We're going to learn you something. I'm not even sure what we're going to talk about yet, but it'll be
We'll figure it out
something.
before we get there.
Yep.
Or after we get there.
Thereabouts.
Yep. 73, everybody.
All right. Yeah. 7-3.
7-3.